Okay, so someone on the forum yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, the first video I put up, mentioned I used the phrase something like when I tap the ball up between the grade 1 and the butterfly, I think I used the phrase something like there's barely anything in them, nothing between them, but they felt that the phrase meant there was a difference. Well, there is a difference between every cleft because every piece of wood is different. So we're just going to look at that with a couple of top end clefts that have got handles in, and then we're just going to have a quick chat about grading. Someone asked about grading as well, so I'll try and make it as brief as possible but get the point over. So when I tapped the grade 1 and the butterfly up the other day, and the feel of them, the actual ball response on them was fantastic, but both clefts did feel slightly different, but the performance was the same. But that's the same throughout the clefts. So I've got two top end clefts here. There's one, very similar to that one. Try and get it out of the light for you a little bit. There we go, very similar. Lovely clefts. Both pressed to get the best out of them, but their natural feel will be slightly different, and you can hear that sometimes in the sound as well. A little bit difficult to put the feel over on a video, but you can sometimes pick the sound up, but the response is the same, but there'll be a different feel and sound to them. So the first one, this one's a 210. Really nice. Feels naturally a little bit softer than some. Yeah, it's been pressed to get the same performance out, the same feel. This second one's 3.9 as it weighs at the minute. I don't know what that sound came over like. It's a little bit harder, naturally a little bit harder, but it pings exactly the same. So yes, there's always a difference between clefts, whether it's a player's grade, grade 1, 2, 3, butterfly, because there naturally is. Okay, so you can't expect, even if the mass manufactured on CNC machines, you can't expect you'll get a perfect shape out of the CNC machines every time they copy, but you won't get the same feel. Also, some willow needs to be shaped slightly differently just because of the nature of it, but there's just subtle differences, and you're going to get that with handmade anyway. That's the beauty of it. But so that's the difference in the feel. Now, someone mentioned about grading. They don't really understand how the grading works. Well, grading starts at the suppliers. So the suppliers grade from grade 1 down. Okay, so their grade 1 bats arrive and they're pretty much graded on nice straight grains, not much heartwood in the bat, and no bits missing out of it. Then grade 2s, there'll be also no pin marks or anything in the faces as a general rule. Then we get down, we go down, the pin marks will come in to the bat a little bit more, into the face, and heartwood, redwood comes in a little bit more, it intrudes a little bit more into the bat face, and a few more blemishes and bits, perhaps a few bits missing, which is the beauty of being handmade, you can work those out. Grade 3 goes again, so not so many grains, more faults, visual faults, You get a few with faults in that you just have to get rid of the cleft, and that's when you're making it, so you lose that one. So this is one of the butterfly clefts. That's how they arrive. Okay, wax ends to stop them splitting when they're dry, and they're drying them. Okay, because they air dry them. And then sometimes I think they have some kiln dry as well after that. And then we clean them up. So we start looking at the way we grade them. So this one here we've cleaned up. This will be a player's grade to start with. It's absolutely pristine. That'll go in as a player's grade whilst we're pressing it, then handling it. That's the view that we'll have of it. Okay, so that could change when it has its final pressing. So I give them another pressing with the handles in to get the final feel that I want out the bat, to get the maximum that I can out of the bat. If it doesn't cut the mustard, then that'll drop to a grade 1. Now this is the fine line between the grading, because the grade 1s will still feel great, but they will perhaps have a tinge of colour in, and that is where we start getting down to the nitty gritty for shops, really, because shops want pure white faces, so they tend to be players' grades. The grade 1s will have perhaps a little bit of colour, not such perfect faces. But the way we like to do them is grade 1s players. The players just feel they're just something else. Grade 1s are really good bats, and then we're trying to grade down from there. So naturally, if I get some clefts that look like this, and they've got a bit of wood, heartwood in, a few pin marks in, they can't go into players' grades. That one, try and get that up close for you. It's got a couple of marks in it, but when that's cleaned up, they'll be lovely. That will be a nice grade 1 if it presses to satisfaction. That one, for a shop, couldn't really, it's squeezing to be a grade 1. It's got beautiful grains, but it's got too much heartwood in. You only really want about up to 1 inch. And this is the tricky bit with selling in shops, is that they want beautiful looking bats to put up on the racks. That's the selling point. Whereas you can come in the workshop and we'll have a load of grade 1s, players grade, all pressed, handled up, ready to go. But I put a load in there that I just think they're absolutely fantastic bats, and people pick them out. They might have a little pin knot in it or a little mark, it might be half and half heartwood, but they're like an absolute gun. But you won't be able to sell that in a shop quite so readily. So it's a shame when they're like that to waste them. Okay, now from that point we go on to, why am I saying grade 3s are as good as some of the top end bats? Well, the reason being that we've gone on to aesthetics of the bats is that, like, I'll just walk past the camera a second. Like, we've got a butterfly stain. If that presses and feels as good as a player's grade or grade 1, I can't sell it as a player's grade or grade 1 because of the marks it. The grains are absolutely perfect. Absolutely pristine, the grains, but it's got the butterfly stains. You don't want that up on the shop shelves. So likewise, when we go to sort of grade 3s, you're looking at lesser amount of grains, so you're starting to look at 5 grains to 6 grains. Sometimes they're really clean faces, sometimes they're not. So that's a grade 3, it's got a little knot in the middle there. But, put a ball on it, it's absolutely beautiful. There's another bat here which is a grade 2, and it's very similar amount of grains, but it's not got any marks on it, not quite so much heartwood. Feels fantastic again. So the lower grades are more down to the aesthetics of the bat. Okay, so we can't put them on a shelf, on a shop, as players' grades, what people would use, top players would use, because people's eye naturally goes to the clean-faced ones. You can sell them as lower end ones, obviously, if shops want to do that. So hopefully I've made a bit of sense there, but that's why we can't, I say that with the butterfly stain there, such a beautiful bat. In fact, I might even make that up for myself for playing a bit this year. But I could grab any out of there, out of the rack, to make up for me, because they're all pressed to get the best performance out of them. Simply because we order small amounts, we're not ordering thousands and thousands of clefts each time, we're ordering small amounts. We can't afford waste. We've got to get the best out of everything that we can. So therefore, it's good for us because it keeps the quality up. It's good for you because you get good bats at a good price. And it keeps it honest. So now this is a learning thing for me in many ways, because we're starting to get people asking to put in shops, so that's why we've changed the price structures and the way we do it this year. We just have to evolve. We're not expanding as such, but we're developing. So whereas up to now I've been happy just having nice grained and good feel bats in the rack, knowing that they're good enough to go out to any pro. Now it's changing where I've got to think about the looks as well. The looks of the bat as well as the performance as far as grain is concerned. But it doesn't make any difference to the performance. But you will always get some bats that will take, so that player's grade there, I think, will open up quicker than that player's grade there. But I think in the long run, that one will be an absolutely awesome bat. But that's the nature of the piece of willow. Hope that makes sense, not too garbled. Gives you a little bit of an idea of how we do it. We get them graded from the supplier, then we regrade them, and now we're sort of, for shops, it's quite meticulous on the look of the face of the bat, which is another part of the job that we're learning very rapidly. Okay, so that's helped a little bit, and we'll catch you soon with something else.